What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of the Sunday League Screamers podcast. I'm your host of today's show, Steve McCutcheon, with my two co-hosts, Michael Nolan and Vito Anazelli. Say hello, fellas.
What's going on, Steve? What's going on?
Hello. Good evening. How you doing?
Feeling good. We got another great show for you guys today. But before that, please take a moment, hit the bell, subscribe to us on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, and wherever else you get your podcasts. Also follow us on Twitter at the SL_Screamers_pod. Before we get started, though, today we are running a new series. It's our inaugural episode. We're starting a show where we're interviewing Premier League fan bases on this side of the Atlantic. So without further ado, we want to welcome over Paul Dorsey of the show, the Stateside Seagulls.
Welcome, Paul.
Woo!
How's it going, guys?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Pretty good. Thank you for taking the time to join us. Seriously.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. If you want real quick, Paul, just tell us a little bit about yourself and for everyone listening as well.
Yeah, so as you guys mentioned, I'm Paul Dorsey, and I founded and am kind of the social media guy behind Stateside Seagulls. So we're the Brighton Hove Albion supporters group here in the United States. Guess I started the Stateside Seagulls account in 2016, and kind of have kept that up since the championship days up until we got promoted to the Premier League. And since then, it's just been kind of a whirlwind, just kind of figuring out where we fit in the Premier League. And then hopefully this year we can push up to Champions League. But
well, I love the ambition. I love it.
Not too far.
I mean, we're already top six now.
So question for you, Paul. I mean, obviously you said you just but you've been following Brighton since the championship days. How did you end up following or even finding Brighton in the first place? What was that story like? I'm sure we and a bunch of other listeners would be curious to kind of understand that story in general.
Yeah, I think that, I really started as I like soccer. Everybody around me likes soccer. Mm-hmm. So I have to kind of follow this in some way, somehow. But I've always, being born and raised in Baltimore, I guess I've always liked an underdog. I've always liked, that scrappy, terrible Orioles team. So it was kind of a natural thing to like, not like Man U or Man City or Chelsea or something like that. But yeah, for Brighton, I'm not really sure. I can't remember exactly why I tagged along with Brighton at the beginning. But I think it was really around the 2012-2013 season. I just kind of casually started following the team. You would just check scores on like the BBC website and things like that, just kind of following along. But that 2013 season, we played Crystal Palace in the playoff semifinal, and just the intensity of the rivalry. I didn't really understand it then. I'd never watched a game. I didn't even watch a game that season. I was just listening on radio, but, being on Twitter and kind of being in that community, having those, the Brighton supporters actually kind of involved me in things. So I would like talk about the team and they would actually have a conversation with me instead of just kind of being like, oh, you're just some fan, whatever. Yeah. That was really something that was really, nice to me. It was like, I'm actually part of this community, even though I'm, across an ocean. And, obviously, we didn't do very well in that semifinal. Palace got promoted. We don't like to talk about it, but that was kind of that moment it sounds really strange, but we lost. And, obviously having never even seen the team play a game, I felt emotion like with the Orioles or, I'm a Saints fan too. Don't ask. It's a long story, but
great game
that was fantastic, by the way. It was never that emotional thing. Like obviously when the Saints won the Super Bowl, that was one thing, but with the Orioles, I'd just gotten used to, okay, they lost again, whatever. With Brighton, it was like, I was on campus in college and I had to just pace around campus, like pissed off. I was like, what the hell? I've never seen this team play. I barely even liked the team a week ago.
Yeah.
And I'm just like emotionally just distraught over this. What the hell just happened? And it's just been that for me for the past, I don't know, what is it? Almost 10 years now.
Yeah. I think that's one of the best parts of the game too. The emotion that it evokes in the supporters base is unlike any other sport in America, no matter where you're located.
Yeah, absolutely.
What was it like following a championship team? This is going to sound kind of like a silly question, but like we're two Chelsea fans, me and Vito. Mike's a Tottenham fan. So obviously I like to say I followed before the oil money and stuff like that.
To be fair, Tottenham can be a championship team sometimes.
Also true.
At least you're an Arsenal fan.
Yeah, they get shit on a lot on this podcast, actually. But following a championship team, especially like 10 years ago, like TV rights and all that kind of stuff, it's not easy to like keep up with.
It was very hard. So obviously, you know, back in that day, I kind of had to have like a Premier League team that I would just kind of tag along with. So I would watch, and that was even before everything was on NBC. So I think the first couple seasons that I was watching, it was, you know, maybe 1 or 2 games, kind of like the championship is now.
Yeah.
So it was like 1 or 2 games a weekend on ESPN, and then everything else was kind of just, you know, following along anyway. So it wasn't that much different at the beginning. But then, you know, when NBC comes in and the Premier League games, all of them are on TV, it's a very different thing watching and trying to follow a championship team. So, you know, I started following Brighton, you know, kind of part-time in 2012, full-time in 2013. And I think that the first match that I actually watched live, not on streams that, you know, of questionable origin, I was probably like an FA Cup game in 2015. But other than that, it was just following along on Twitter or following, you know, listening to the BBC Sussex radio broadcast. It was a lot of just kind of scouring the internet to see what's going on with the team. And that was something that, you know, it feels so foreign to me now. I can watch every game and it just doesn't feel, it sometimes it doesn't feel real. It's like that. It was so hard to get a game then. Like when we got promoted to the Premier League, that game, the promotion game, I had to watch on some person in the stadium was streaming the game on Facebook, and I had to watch it that way.
Nice.
And that is some serious commitment.
Yeah, and now I can just watch every game whenever I want. It's just so bizarre.
So when you guys got promoted, is that when the Twitter account started for you?
So I started it let's see. So yeah, I started it in 2016. We got promoted in 2017, 2018. So
okay.
it was like the season before we got promoted.
Is that when it really took off? Was like around that time frame?
Yeah, definitely. So I think that when we got promoted, we had like 75 followers. And I thought that was really cool. Like when I started, it was just like, I knew there were kind of pockets of fans over here. It was mostly like expats who moved from Brighton to the States for whatever reason. And it was kind of that same base for the first season or so. And then, you know, obviously we get picked up by, you know, the PL and USA Twitter accounts, and people start following us. People start saying like, oh, there actually are Brighton fans over here. Obviously there are games on TV. So, you know, kind of the casual fans will pick up Brighton. So that definitely was part of the explosion. And then obviously as we've, you know, stuck around and done pretty well, we've just exploded in numbers.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of doing pretty well, a lot of teams that come up to the Premier League, it's kind of hit or miss sometimes, right? You have a Leicester City that do, you know, amazing things, or sometimes you get Norwich City who, you know, kind of fall by the wayside and head back to the Championship. What are your thoughts on like how you've done in the transfer market, coming up from the Premier League and being able to sign players like Adam Lallana, Leonardo Trossard, Danny Welbeck, Curacella this year? I mean, you guys have really, it seems to me like you guys really tried to put it all on the line, like, and that's got to be great as a supporter.
Yeah, it's really awesome to see how far the club has come in that regard. So, you know, even, you know, in the past couple of years, it's been very much a, you know, kind of rely on the academy, get players in through the academy and hope that they can do the job. And I feel like that's kind of what's been happening this year. So we got Cucurella, we got Mwepu from Salzburg, but there's been a lot of just, you know, getting players through the academy, taking players out on loan, like Ben White was at Leeds before he came back to Brighton for the season last year. And now he's out at Arsenal, and really happy about that 50 million pounds right now.
Very fair.
Yeah, no, it's just been a lot of that type of investment strategy, and, you know, not necessarily spending a whole bunch of money on, you know, I think that was the big thing this summer was, are we going to sign a striker? We have to sign a striker. We didn't score goals last year. When's the striker going to come? And it never did. And that was kind of something that I think the fans, not all of the fans, but some of the fans of Brighton were really pissed off about. It was like, why aren't we spending the Ben White money on a big name striker. And that's just not really what we do. So getting Kukurea in, getting Mwepu in, getting some players that we send back out on loan, that's kind of more the Brighton philosophy. I think that, getting 2 high number signings, so, spending money on some players, I think that's, where we have come from in the Premier League. So we can spend that money, but we haven't lost sight of what has worked for us in the past. So getting players like, Aaron Connolly in the starting 11 on occasion, getting players like Ben White to come in from Leeds and play a season and then, get some money from him and then, sign like 10 more players that can take his place and really bolster the squad. I think that's really kind of the strategy that we're going for. And I don't really see that, signing a 30 million pound striker or more, that's just not really what we would have done. And I'm glad that we didn't, blow all that money and kind of hope that something happens that might not.
So question for you, and this is just a hypothetical. With that money that was spent, right? And there was reports that Danny Ings went for what, 20, 25 million?
25, 30, somewhere in that range.
Would you have taken that opportunity, if you were magic wand, you could sign Ings for that money and then you have that proven goal scorer up there? Or do you think it's okay to rely on the Welbecks and the Maupay's for now? At least
I see it's difficult. I probably would have back, if I would have known that Danny Ings would have gone for 30 million pounds, that honestly sounds like a bargain. But I feel like now that it's too late and we can't do anything, it's like, oh yeah, sure, I would have spent the money, whatever. Yeah. But I think I would have, but I'm also okay with not having done that because anything that we do this season, it really can't be any worse than we did last season. Like Mopé's gonna score more goals. Welbeck's always injured, but he's going to score goals. Connolly, God only knows what he's doing, but he will be involved somehow. I think that the idea that we sent so many players out on loan kind of stresses me out because we don't necessarily have that depth. But, signing Danny Ings for 30 million pounds may not have been the wisest thing to do, especially if we're spending money on, we may not have spent any money in transfer fee to get Adam Lallana in or get Danny Welbeck in last year, but we're spending it in wages. Yep. So it's kind of, making sure that, we might not be spending money in transfer fees, but we also have a wage bill to think about. That's why we kind of offloaded a whole bunch of players this summer, is because we had a massive wage bill for players who aren't playing anymore or who are, on loan somewhere. It's kind of something that I was curious about with, we still have Jurgen Locadia on the books, who kind of flamed out at FC Cincinnati on loan. And it was just like, why did we keep him around and not loan out Connolly? But that's a whole other situation. But I don't know if necessarily spending the 30 million would have, I don't know if it would have worked out, and it definitely wouldn't have been, it wouldn't have fit the Brighton mold in terms of spending that money and then also having wages on top of that.
Well, you guys have also a very specific way you play under Graham Potter, and that's something that we all wanted to talk about because as a Tottenham fan also, obviously they tried to sign Potter. There was rumors and links that they were going in and out. And I will say I have always, since I've followed Brighton in the Premier League, admired the way they play and admire the way Brighton Potter coaches in general. I was curious to kind of get your thoughts on him, the way he plays, the coaching style. I mean, what do you see as like, at least this season for your team and for Potter in general as like a good goal and a good reach goal to really be shooting for, and just kind of opening up about that?
Yeah, well, I think definitely we can win the league, and it's only a matter of time before we win the Champions League. Seriously though, I absolutely love the Graham Potter style of play, and especially coming off Chris Hughton's kind of defensive, make sure we don't lose before we actually go for a win strategy. It's very refreshing, even when we get losses, even if we, have a draw that should have been a win, that's a potential win instead of a potential draw that ends up being a loss. And that's refreshing to see as a Brighton fan. It's like we're actually trying to push up the table instead of, save ourselves from relegation at all costs.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, a goal for us, it's been said by Tony Bloom, the owner, it's been said by Paul Barber, everybody involved with the club, we want to be a top 10 club in the Premier League at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's this year, 5 years down the line, we don't want to, be that yo-yo club. We don't want to be Norwich. We want to have ambition. We want to set ourselves some goals and actually, not just be an established team, but be an established team in the top half.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's necessarily realistic this year. I know we've started out really well. We've had a relatively easy schedule so far, so that may also be, kind of a factor in that. But I think that a really realistic goal is to get out of the relegation fight this year. So for us to not have to worry about games in May, that's going to be really important for us. Getting
you less heart attacks.
Exactly. Yeah. No, trust me, it's been very stressful.
Yeah. And
it's
Paul,
kind of just been worried about, the drop, even though, we play really great football. We could score a billion goals if we really wanted to, but it just hasn't happened. But I think that this is the year that the goals finally go in and we aren't worrying about falling down on the table.
Well, Lewis Dunk, after that Brentford win, he came out and said that he thinks that the team is maturing extremely well. Like he in reference to the Brent game, he said that that might be one that they would have lost last year, but it just feels like a different team. And I mean, clearly they're a completely different team than where they were last year, to your point before. What do you think's been so different for them this year?
I think it's just confidence. We're scoring goals. Neil Maupay scored in both of the first games. And I think that was just really important to get those first results, to get those wins, to get points on the board. We've kind of started out well. A couple of years ago, we beat Watford on the opening day 3-0, and then we kind of just, regressed back to form. And I think that keeping up those results, having those moments of, this could all fall completely sideways, and sticking with the game plan, sticking with, an idea that this is not, I don't know, this isn't going to, fall apart on us because we're playing poorly. It's because we're not, taking the opportunities that we have in front of us. That's really kind of the biggest thing that I think has happened this year is that, obviously it's really early. It's only been 4 games, but we have the belief that the play on the field can actually turn into results instead of just, it's really good play, but we can't win. It's really good play, but the goals aren't going in. It's really good play, but, it's just not happening for us. We're playing really well and we're getting results. We're playing really well and things are kind of working out. And that's just, that confidence, I think, is just bleeding through the team right now. It's just really exciting to see players who were kind of like Neil Maupay, I think, is the best example of that. He was just, you could feel the tension last year because you knew that he wanted those goals. You knew that he could do it, but it just wasn't happening for him. You could just kind of feel that, just that anger, that angst of just like, why isn't it going in? It's not going in. I can't score. It's just not going to happen. And that kind of bled through the year. Like, okay, if he doesn't feel like he can score, then he won't score. Yeah. And this year he's scoring and he's getting involved. Even if he's not scoring, he's getting involved in setting up attacking plays. He's getting involved in, setting up opportunities for other players on the field. And I think that that's really important, is just having that confidence that even if you're not having your best day, you can help somebody else have their best day. And it's just really important to have that belief and that unity, togetherness in the team to feel like you can actually turn those results into points on the board.
Yeah, you definitely see it on the field.
Speaking of some of the other players you were kind of just mentioning besides Maupay, I personally, I'm a big fan of Tariq Lamptey, if I'm saying that correctly. And I'm wondering, from your perspective, obviously you're a little bit more connected, who are some of the younger players that you're excited for, that you want to see kind of make a breakthrough or make that next step or that next leap this season? Obviously, like I'm a big Lamptey fan. I'm a big Basuma fan, but I don't know if you guys in a full transparency will be able to keep him, but we'll see. But yeah, I'm curious to hear about that.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see Robert Sanchez get a full season under his belt. So last year, Matt Ryan started the season. He was our keeper for the entirety of our stay in the Premier League and kind of fell by the wayside. Robert Sanchez came in and absolutely stole the show. And I'm really excited to see him get a full season under his belt, see if, he can actually keep it up. He's kept it up really well so far this season. I feel like he's definitely kind of our goalkeeper of the future, and we have a really good goalkeeping squad, really good goalkeeping coaches. So I think that's definitely something that I'm really excited about.
He's only 23 also.
He's really young. He's in the Spanish national team. He got his first cap the other day. So it's kind of crazy to think about where he's come from in the past couple seasons. One player that he's not playing for Brighton this season, is on loan, but really excited to see where he goes in the future, is Andy Zakiri.
Okay.
He scored for Brighton against Cardiff in the Carabao Cup right before the transfer window. He got loaned out to Augsburg, but he's somebody who he's been playing in kind of the Graham Potter style. He's been playing in like 20 different positions on the field.
For those who aren't familiar, myself, definitely. What role does he play?
So he's a forward supposed to be. He's supposed to be, kind of a striker, winger type of situation, but he's been playing because Graham Potter likes to tinker with things and keep everybody on their toes. He's played, left wing, back, midfield, forward. It's kind of been all over the place, but he, especially in that Cardiff game, showed that he can play in any role. He wants to be out on the field no matter what the situation is. And B, he can score goals. And that's something that we really need, because we didn't score goals last year. And B, it's something that he's really young. He came from Lausanne, so he wasn't really a high quality signing. He didn't come from the Eredivisie, or he came from the B League in Switzerland. And everybody was like, is he actually even going to play for us? Is he going to be on the U23s? And he can score. He can play anywhere he wants, anywhere that we put him out on the field. And I'm really excited to see, after he gets his feet wet in the Bundesliga, if he comes back into the Premier League and actually can put everything together and score the goals for us. To your point, Mike, I think that, Tariq Lamptey is going to be an absolute stud. He's been injured for a little while now, but
once he
comes back, he was supposed to be back.
I
guess
September.
Maybe he's on the bench. Yeah, I'm not sure. He might be back this weekend. It could be a couple of weeks more. I think that there's been his injuries kind of like gone in and out. It's been like, he's going to come back. And then it's like, now we're going to sit him for a while. And then it's just kind of been back and forth with that. But hopefully he's coming back very soon, because the pace and just
he's electric.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. The pizzazz he brings to the pitch is just unbelievable.
Coming from a Chelsea supporter where he used to, apply his craft, that one hurt. So great addition for you.
I actually find it funny when you were talking about Mulpie last year with his finishing ability and everything like that. I'm like, it happens at big clubs too, man. We signed Werner for about 50 million now. I watched the same exact thing you probably saw the entire season.
Forget about Morata.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, don't go there. But dude, I honestly, I love everything you're saying right now. It's pretty cool to talk to someone that's not typically like, I feel like most guys I meet that are fans in the area, at least, or like when I went to college and stuff, it's mostly like a big top six club, like Liverpool, Chelsea, Man U, anyone along those lines. So it's always nice to hear from someone that's, down near mid-table, or you guys have been fighting relegation in the last 2 seasons, I think. Both years you finished in like 16th or 17th?
Yeah, we've been in and around the relegation fight every single season we've been in the Premier League, and it's been extremely stressful, but I feel like we're kind of on the upward trajectory, whereas Absolutely. A team like Burnley, it seems like they're kind of yo-yoing between 16th and 17th, and it's just never actually going to happen that they get relegated. But it's nice to be going upward instead of kind of stagnating and kind of falling.
I mean, the stats are there for you guys. I mean, the XG, I'm assuming you follow that or you've heard of it.
I have heard way too much of that in the past year, trust me.
I mean, to that point, though, the opportunities are there. So it's not like you guys aren't creating the chances. It's just that one missing link to that.
Yeah, and to your point earlier.
Yeah.
To your point earlier, I think that we had, 0.19 XG in the win this past weekend. And that's another game that we absolutely, first of all, would not have had that low of an XG last year. And last year we would have lost it like 2-1 or 1-0. And this year we're putting all the pieces together. The defense has always been something that we've had just
sorted
all the way around for the past, 10 years that I've been a fan.
Yeah.
Our defense has been outstanding. It's just putting the ball in the back of the net on our side of the field. And I think that that's finally actually happening this season. I hope that I'm not talking too soon, but I think that I don't think that we're necessarily going to finish in sixth. I don't think that this is going to be where Brighton stay, but top 10, I think, is definitely a realistic target.
Would that be what you said needs to be improved most so far about the opening 4 games? Because, I mean, we can sing Brighton's praises all day. You guys look fantastic every time. Even the game you lose against Everton, you absolutely dominated. I think we're very unfortunate not to get points from that. So would you say that the finishing is your number one, or do you have anything else that you think the side needs to be improving on?
Yeah, I think that, and this was kind of something that I was noticing this past weekend, especially, but it's been kind of a thing the past 4 games, and that's just going to be kind of par for the course in the beginning of the season anyway. It's just the sloppiness, I think, has been a big thing for us. We can keep the ball out of the back of the net on our side of the field, but putting ourselves in those positions where a team might take advantage of a bad pass or just kind of lackadaisical play, that's something that, in the game this past weekend, I was just like waiting for the goal to be scored against us, because we just kept, obviously Brentford are known for their pressing. They're going to keep the press on you. You saw it against Arsenal in the first game of the season. They just kept putting the pressure on Arsenal, and eventually the cracks formed and they scored goals. And that was kind of what I was anticipating was going to happen this past weekend with us, was that they keep pressing us. They keep making us make mistakes. And if we, I think that Robert Sanchez had a couple of, difficult passes to get out of the back. And I was just waiting for one of those passes to end up in a Brentford in the Brentford goal. But I think that that's kind of the biggest thing. And obviously that's against Brentford. They're going to play like that, but that's been something that we had against Everton, against Burnley, was just that we had some moments in the game where we just didn't really seem to get all the pieces in gear. And it just kind of, it's stressful to think, because we play out of the back all the time. And if we make one bad pass, it could just turn out into a disaster. So that's something I think we really need to kind of get cleaned up. Obviously, if we can get that cleaned up, if we can get the goals, we can go anywhere this year.
I mean, I think that's the biggest difference for you guys, though, too. And you mentioned earlier, Paul, that you had a little bit easier schedule. Like, you're not facing someone like Norwich, who had, a couple of top 6 teams right off the bat and everything. But you had Burnley comeback win. Watford, you pretty much dominated 2-0. Everton game, I mean, it could have went either way, but I thought that was a proper result, at least for that one. And then Brentford taking the 1-0 one away. It feels to me that the games that are winnable, or the points are there, even if it's a draw, you guys are maximizing that against the lower tier teams in the league. And I think that's your biggest thing, where in years past, where you guys just, like you said, you either drew, you lost, and you left feeling the game like you missed out on something. But now this year, and you have a great test this upcoming week against Leicester. I think it's a great one for you guys, because somewhere, at least table wise, you're right there with them right now. So kind of, if you start getting a result against someone like that, I don't think, I mean, definitely top 10, but I don't see a 7th place Europa Conference thing out of the question.
They're out of form right now too, a little bit.
Yeah,
they are. Yeah, they definitely are.
Good time to play.
We do love playing up to big teams, and in past seasons we've always played down to the to the teams around us. So it's kind of actually a little surprising that we've done so well so far, because in years past we would have probably maybe gotten 4 points out of these matches, because we just love to kind of match the game that we're in. And so I think this is like you said, it's a really good test to see, is this where we are? Are we at the Leicester City level? But then B, are we taking this like we're taking like a Brentford game, where we know that that's a newly promoted team? Are we going to kind of match their intensity? Or are we going to take this like we belong with Leicester? This is going to be our game. Where do we see ourselves on the table, and where do we see ourselves talent wise and skill wise and form wise?
Do you think you've bulked up enough over the past transfer window? I know we talked about that a little earlier with the striker thing and stuff, but do you think everywhere else around the field, defense, midfield, you guys are good enough to go like the distance? Because obviously suspensions, injuries, all that kind of stuff wear and tear on you later on in the season.
Yeah, there's been, obviously, I mean, it seems like it's every year with the injuries. It's just kind of exacerbated this year with Welbeck hurt, Lamptey hurt, March has been kind of in and out. So the depth, I think that, having so many players go out on loan or go out in the transfer market has kind of been stressful, because I think we have, like, if you look at the Premier League stats of like the players coming and going, like we have like 30 players out and maybe like 4 or 5 in, but it's a lot of players that never played or going out on loan. So they're still with us. And it's a little stressful to see that, and then see all the injuries that we have and all the players that are kind of out of form or, whatever. And I think that we have the players in and around the squad that can get it done, depth, obviously, to keep sustaining this growth and the start that we've had. It gets a little stressful when, for the Brentford game, we have 2 keepers on the bench, because in a COVID situation, we had 2 players out this weekend because of COVID distancing, and we also have players that are injured. So it's kind of, when you see 2 keepers on the bench because we have to make up the numbers, it's like, okay, do we really have the depth? But then you have to remember, they're not actually injured. They just can't play because of COVID. So it's not like they're out for a long time. It's just they're out for a game, but it looks worse than it is. But, with Shane Duffy coming back in, I think that he's somebody that we didn't really even think that he was going to be on the team at all ever again. And he comes back in and he's pretty much the best player that we have right now. So that's kind of been one piece of the puzzle that was missing or was kind of stressful that has kind of seemed to come back around. So yeah, I think that we definitely have the players in and around the squad that can get the job done. It's just making sure that they actually stay fit, and then seeing what we can do if things do go awry. Obviously, there's still the January window where we can hopefully maybe make up the numbers, or, if we do decide, what the hell, we'll sign Danny Ings Jr., then
not a bad idea.
Hopefully we can get somebody in January.
Okay.
Very cool.
Couple rapid fire questions for you. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. So Brighton's top goal scorer, who will it be?
Neil Maupay.
Top assist?
Pascal Gross.
Player of the year?
Shane Duffy.
Okay. Defender of the year, probably Shane Duffy.
Shane Duffy.
I would assume. Comeback player of the year?
Tariq Lamptey.
All right. Interesting choices.
Quick answers, though. I'll give you that. You really like that.
You think, here's a one for you. If Brighton are able to finish, let's just say, I know you said the top 10 is the target, right? And this is a highly debated topic that we've talked about also on other podcasts for like coach of the year and things like that. Let's say they're able to get to that European Conference League spot. Do you think he has a legitimate shot at that point, coach of the year?
Absolutely. I think that he already has an argument because he has kept Brighton in the league well past our sell-by date. And obviously Chris Hughton had a couple of years there, and he deserves all the praise in the world. I can't imagine where we would be without having him on board. When I became a fan, he was, we were about to get relegated to League One. So, Chris Hughton, even though he got let go by us, love him. Graham Potter has elevated us to the next level. And if he can get us even sniffing the conversation of Europe, I can't even imagine what anybody's argument would be other than like, if Brentford somehow win the title, then, then maybe Brentford then, but if we finish second, then I still think Graham Potter has a leg up on Thomas Frank. So.
Like I said, the whole relegation battle, and he deserves it there. Mike has a really big man crush on Sean Dyche. And every year how he pulls Burnley out of the hat too.
He's a magician. He's literally a magician.
I love to hate him. Oh my God. He's just they're so exhausting. I swear. Every single year. And they're not going down. So when we're down there with them, it's like, okay, so Burnley's not going down. So who can we drag down below us? Because it's not going to be them.
That's funny.
I like it. I like it. What where can people find out more about you, Paul?
So we are on Twitter at BHAFC Stateside, and we're also on Instagram, same handle. Also on Facebook at Stateside Seagulls. We do have a membership link. It's going to be in our descriptions on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and all that, but it's statesideseagulls.com/join. If you want to join, become a member of Stateside Seagulls. We're kind of beginning our growth. We've been kind of just a social media powerhouse for the past few years, but we're trying to make that a little bit more formal. So we've got a lot of exciting things going on in the background, but it's obviously just a bunch of Seagulls gifs on Twitter during match days. So
for those
anyone listening, I'll put that in the that's going to be in the comment section on YouTube, Twitter, Spotify, Apple, wherever we can put it. So just take a look at the videos and the comment sections, and you'll be able to find the link right to them.
I was going to say, not to give away your location too much, but broadly speaking, when I come to Baltimore at some point in time, I'm going to have to go to McGurk's with you if that's where you guys actually go for game day, and at least do a little bit of a car bomb in the beginning just to watch a Brighton game. So if anyone listening is in Baltimore, definitely, obviously hit up Paul, go to some of these early morning games. So
yeah,
awesome.
Definitely. Stress out with me about Neil Mopay missing an open goal.
You're not alone on that one. Trust me.
Yeah.
That'll do it for this episode, guys, at Sunday League Screamers podcast. Like, comment, and hit the bell to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also find us on Spotify, Apple, and wherever else you guys get your podcasts. Follow us on Twitter, SL_Screamers_pod, for daily tweets and updates about the show, world football. I'm your host, Steve McCutcheon, with Michael Nolan and Vito Anazelli and Paul Dorsey signing off.
Thanks, Paul.
See you later. Thanks,
Thank
Paul.
You.